I was so honored to be on your 100th, and then getting in touch with you again, I was hoping for a big round number.
Well, we could wait another 60 weeks. Hello and welcome to episode 334 of the Rockstar CMO effing marketing podcast, a proud member of the Marketing Podcast Network. It's Saturday the 8th of August. I'm your host, Ian Truscott. I'm not a rockstar, but I am a full-time B2B CMO, and I hope you're well and staying as sane as you feel you need to be. The intention of this podcast is to inspire your inner marketing rockstar, and for this week's dose of marketing street knowledge, I'm going to be joined by win-loss analysis expert Ken Schwartz from Peer Survey Professionals to dive into this often underutilized data source before I retire to our virtual bar, the Rose and Rockstar, as I pick Robert Rose's marketing brain over a cocktail. But first, we need to pay the bar tab. I'll be back in a moment.
We'll be right back after this word.
We'll be right back
After this word. We'll be right.
This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at accenture.com/Spotify.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Welcome back, Ken, to Rockstar CMO. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. Nice to see you again, Ian.
Yeah, and it's been a while. And I said welcome back because it's actually 234 episodes since you were on, because you were on the 100th episode, which is a bit of a landmark for us back then. So I'm not
honored. I was so honored to be on your 100th, and then getting in touch with you again, I was hoping for a big round number.
Well, we could wait another 60 weeks, or we'd have to travel back in time half a year. But so I can't do either of those things. So for the folks that didn't hear our 100th episode, what do you do? You're at PSB Enterprise. What do PSB Enterprises do? What are you up to, Ken?
Yeah, PSP stands for Peer Survey Professionals.
Mm-hmm.
And what we do is call up the customers of our clients to talk with them after our clients have won or lost competitive deals to find out how and why this happened.
Mm-hmm.
So we do win-loss interviewing and consulting analysis. That's the essence of our business. And there's other things that we do, market research related, but they always come down to talking to the customers of our clients to get insights that they wouldn't otherwise have.
Yeah, I've always considered you the win-loss analysis guy. So anytime we have any questions about that. And Jeff and I often talk about win-loss analysis, and I think we've probably mentioned you on the show before. And just as a reminder, let's start with a basic question. Why is it so important, and how does this intel help us as B2B marketers and vendors?
Oh, well, I can't think of a company that wishes that they didn't win more of work. So yeah, that is the goal, is to improve your win rate and to get more market share. And I guess the win rate is the easier one to calculate and something that everybody should know. Often they don't. We'll talk about that later. Actually, that's a really puzzling thing. It's very hard to know exactly what your win rate is, but everybody wants more wins. The salespeople, of course, want to know how to beat X, Y, Z. So their needs are very clear. And then everybody else would like to know what they should do differently in order to get more wins. And executives need to know what they should invest in. So it's something that touches the whole company.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty broad based.
Yeah, yeah, and I think we've all probably, if anybody's in B2B, particularly in B2B tech, I think we've all been touched by these kinds of programs. And I've seen various implementations of win-loss analysis from a field in the CRM that salespeople tend to ignore, like even asking who your competitors are, and to a proper external review, which is the sort of thing you do. What do you think makes a good? What makes a good win-loss analysis in your experience of what you've seen?
Well, I'd say the biggest thing is that win-loss that's a program that
Mm-hmm.
keeps on going is
Mm-hmm.
the biggest thing. That's the
Yeah,
biggest one. And then
yeah.
that generates a completely different set of behaviors and requirements. But usually what happens in my experience, because before I started doing win-loss, which I guess
Mm.
I've been doing now for 7 years,
Yeah.
so doing it on the provider side. But before that, I was on the receiving side. I was shipping these things from the same company. So I worked with PSD as a client for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And, the first company, the way it started was there was a crisis. I think we
Mm-hmm.
lost some important deal,
Yeah.
but they can take different forms. It can be a crisis like a lost deal, or it can be an executive who says, "Where's the enablement for my team?
Right.
Where do we learn how to beat these
Yeah.
competitors?" And then
Yeah.
some fairly generic stuff that comes from headquarters does not do the job. And so then
The
that can trigger,
classic battle card.
the classic battle card that's nothing more than the stuff that you can find on the public website. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
restatement of the strengths on the public website. So it's just a
Mm-hmm.
packaging job. So those things can often kick off a program.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what really is interesting is when it becomes an evergreen and
Yeah.
becomes part of the company's DNA. And
Yeah.
that can happen. I've seen it happen. I've been involved in that, and it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. And this is all about data and insight and capturing that, right? And I made a joke just now about there being a field in the CRM that salespeople ignore. And one of the things I think that people are it's the accuracy of the data that I always find challenging with win-loss, because it's often a perception thing, isn't it? Particularly around loss. And also people are concerned that win-loss becomes like a blame game of why we lost. How do you approach clients with this, and how do you turn this into sort of a positive learning experience that, yeah, we lost, and it might have been in the purview of the product or the salesperson or in pre-sales or in the demo, but we need to learn from this. How do you do that?
Well, I think the starting point is that you really want to know what was in the mind of the customer
Yeah.
in order to get an accurate readout of why you won or lost.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot to learn from your internal sources, namely the salespeople who were right in the middle of this selling.
Mm-hmm.
But the question of why did we win, why did we lose, is the wrong question for the salespeople. And that I think is a really important point. That is a question you should reserve for customers. And whether you call them yourself or you hire a company like us to do it for you is beside the point. You have to talk to the customers to understand what their criteria were and how they sized up their alternatives, the pros and cons they looked at. And then you can see within that scope how you did.
Yeah.
That's the method. Well, the salespeople might have a perspective on this, but it's usually wrong. And we know because we've tested this. We had one client where we asked the salespeople, we did these interviews of the salespeople as well as the customers, asking them the same question. And fascinatingly, when they won, they actually overstated the strengths of their competitors.
All right.
And when they lost, they typically didn't know what it was.
All
They
right.
had some guesses, but they were wrong.
Right.
Yeah. And of course, there's people will typically say, well, the salespeople always blame price. They'll blame the headquarters. They'll think the relationship was good. And generally, the relationship is good. That's not the reason that they lose. But the reasons are complicated and subtle, and oftentimes not what they appear to be on the surface. So you really do need to do the interviews. And sometimes there are things that the customers don't want to talk about with their vendors because it would weaken their bargaining position for the next round when it's time to renew or whatever. So it's a subtle business, but you can learn an awful lot no matter what you do talking with them. Now that said, it is also very important to get insight from the sales team, and we can spend more time talking about what that could be besides the wisdom of talking to customers.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of win-loss goes wrong, isn't it? Because talking to customers is an expense, particularly trying to re-engage with somebody that you haven't won, is a tricky business. It requires investment, doesn't it? Whether you do it internally or whether you get external people to do it. But I agree with you. The conversation you have outside the sales crucible, whatever, with them post the opportunity either going for or against you, they say very different things, don't they, to a third party to who they'd say to the salesperson.
Correct. And so this is why I think it's a mistake to ask the salespeople. You can ask the salespeople the wrong question in different ways. Most people try to do it through the Salesforce interface. So this is really laughable. So the first question that they get is, what was the primary reason you lost? There's 5 or 6 questions, or 5 or 6 possible answers: price, functionality, sales relationship. I don't think they're ever even given that option. Right? I mean, who would say that sales relationship was the reason they lost? Nobody. And so since all of the things require mind reading on the part of the sales rep, they'll guess, or they'll just answer the first thing in the list. And so if you do analysis, what you'll find is the preponderance of responses are the first thing in the list, because they're just getting through the mandatory fields. And then they have to do the secondary reason they lost. I mean, what is this? How would you know what primary and secondary? So the whole thing is silly. But these, I think, are default questions from many Salesforce implementations. And then that's what they end up collecting for years. And it's not meaningful. It's not actionable. It's just a waste of time. And it makes people get demoralized, which I think is really the important point here. The salespeople, they really do want to win more, and they will participate in programs that they believe will work. But because on the face of it, these things are silly, you get a certain degree of, I don't know, the salespeople just don't trust that their efforts will be used seriously.
A couple of things come to mind there. Firstly, what's the phrase? Play stupid games, get silly prizes, right? Is if they feel like what they enter is just to get them through to the end of the thing so they can close the deal. Like they're not thinking about this. The other thing is I've had that experience in my life when I was in pre-sales, where I'm sitting in all of the deal, and I can see the chemistry is just not there. They're just not enjoying being with the salesperson, and you can feel that the deal's not going to go our way. And the sales guy was incredibly persistent and handling all of their objections. And finally, they said, "Oh, you don't support a particular database." And that particular and I knew full well, because I was the pre-sales guy, that was never a requirement along any of the thing. My suspicion there, and I think there's 2 things here. And I think when we were chatting before I got you on the call, you've got a couple of ideas around this. But my suspicion there was that the sales guy was so good at objection handling, and they were so kind of annoyed with that they just gave him something he couldn't handle the objection from. And one of the things I think you was just saying about why this bad data is bad for the company is because this was a well-respected sales guy within the organization. For him to say that a particular database needed supported was paid attention to in the product development team. So then it sparked a chain of effort, which in my suspicion was it was just an objection the customer put in so that this sales guy would stop calling them. But I think you raised the fact that when we were chatting before, in your wiseness, which is that it could be that the competitor placed that landmine. So
could be,
But is that the sort of thing that you see when you're talking to customers versus talking to sales? That kind of situation?
Oh, for sure. There's there's different fault lines which can appear, but that's one of them where there's this surprise at the end of a requirement that they didn't talk about earlier that
Yeah.
should have been talked about earlier. That smells to me like an excuse and not the real thing. I mean, often there are factions within the client, or within the prospective customer that are fighting for this deal, and then this is used against you at the end, and you won't get the truth from your customer because they're just too embarrassed to tell you that this is going to happen. They fought for it, but it didn't work. So there's a lot of things that can go on there. The psychology of people that are easy to guess about, but you don't want to be in a situation where you have to guess. And this is, I think, really the central point is asking the sales rep to be a mind reader is unfair to the sales rep, and it will generate a certain degree of cynicism in the organization if it's clear that that's what is going on. No one will believe the results that come from it, and they won't participate sincerely in the program that's gathering it. And so this fosters a very negative feeling towards what's going on. And people won't fill in these forms. They won't participate in the interview. So
well, when you're working directly with the customers rather than with sales, is there a timing element to this? Is it better to hit them straight after the deal has completed, or do you leave it a few months? What's your recommended time you should get in touch with customers?
Well, I like the sooner the better. The issues will be fresh in their mind. And we can really get good information from them about that. But what I find that you can go back quite a ways, especially if the deal is very strategic. People remember. If they bought something for a few $1 million, they remember. So, I don't find that that's a big problem. Also, we will schedule these things with some lead time with the respondents, and they'll organize their thoughts to quick call. So it's really not an issue. But if you go too far back in time, the real problem is that the readout you get from these customers will represent a market reality that is no longer current. Too many things have changed for you and your competitors that what they're telling you is really relevant to current market conditions.
And speaking of currency, or currency not in terms of money, but currentness. So, I mean, we've been talking about win-loss analysis, and I've witnessed it over 25 years of my career. So it's been an important topic, which is why it sounded so silly for me to ask you straight away, why is it important? Because we've known for so long, right? Has anything changed in what you've seen? Particularly, I mean, we've seen now the rise of SaaS in this period and all that stuff. What have you seen that's changed in terms of people doing win-loss analysis and what's important there?
Well, I think it's done more broadly now. I think that, it's understood to be such a valuable and essential thing. So more and more people are doing it. And there's a lot of people providing the service, I think more than there was when I began.
Wow.
But I think what's changed mostly from my perspective is not that the service is valuable, but it is so much harder to do. Because I think social trust has declined in society so much, and the use of phones and email and messaging and so on, people are bombarded with so much junk that it's just so much harder now to get interviews than it was. This is really a real challenge for us, and I don't have an easy answer for it. We've adjusted our approaches to getting responses, but the response rates have declined over
that's interesting, because I think a lot of people are seeing that, aren't they, across the board in sales, business development, and that people are becoming numb, aren't they, to all this messaging. By the way, do you see any trends? Is there anything specifically that you see a lot of when it comes to win-loss analysis, and that surprise the vendors? Like, do you see, for example, when we're selling, we tend to forget things like that we have to manage risk for this person that we're selling to, because, they're actually more worried about screwing this up than they are about the benefits you're going to get. Do you see any sort of trends in terms of the mismatch between what a vendor thinks about a win-loss analysis and what the the clients are telling you about what was really going on in that deal and what was driving it?
Wow, what an interesting question. Well, I, I will say this, that there's always a pleasure in working with a new client because
Yeah.
you just know there's going to be a couple really good insights that you can share with them
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to repeat that magic trick with
Mhm.
subsequent follow-up interviews for the
Yeah.
next season. No, it's special for the first time. And that can
Yeah.
take a couple different forms. One is that the reason that customers buy from them is not what they thought it was.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
one of my favorite ones.
Yeah.
So it could be exactly what you're talking about. This risk or trust thing is
Yeah.
actually the reason that they're buying. And all the cool features, they don't. It's really that's one of the good ones.
Yeah.
Or it could be that it's this feature and not that feature. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So we
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
uh, you know, we do like to do a set of interviews so
Yeah.
that way we can have some statistical confidence about what we're saying. But
Mm.
I always find that the first few interviews will uncover a couple
Mhm.
big things that
Mhm.
you can use to infer, look, where there's smoke, there's fire. You
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
have to wait around another month or
Yeah.
two to do the whole set here for you to take a
Mhm.
look at this issue. Um, and that's a perennial. I, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a trend. I think that these
Mhm.
are just things that are inevitable.
Yeah.
But I think, well, of course, the big trend is AI is
Mhm.
rocking the boat of
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody. My
Yeah.
clients, it's creating new prospective clients, but it's definitely interfering or creating new opportunities for our
Mhm.
existing clients.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a huge one that
Yeah.
uh, you know it depends on their situation whether this is a good thing or a bad thing.
I think we're in that period, aren't we, with AI being applied to everything. That some of it will stick and add value, and other places it's going to be a distraction. So it's kind of figuring out which is which, right? In that,
Sure.
and but then how can AI actually have that conversation with a client? I mean, you've got to cut through all the numbness around people actually talking to you, but once you start having that conversation, there's nothing like that, is there?
Well, it's a very subtle thing.
Yeah,
I you know I We all have had our experience using AI, and we've watched it evolve over the past few
yeah, it's
years.
true.
And it's just remarkable. I still don't think that AI could do what I do effectively.
Good.
I guess so.
Yeah.
And it would be nice if you could have an automated system do what
Mhm.
I do. You could do it at scale, and it would be cheap, and it'd be great. But I think if you're on the receiving end of a call from AI,
Mhm. Mhm.
that just as if you were on the receiving end from a call from a person who didn't really understand what they were talking
Yeah.
about. They're reading
Yeah,
from a
yeah,
script. In
yeah,
some ways, it's very similar. It's different in others, but in some ways, it's similar because it's not really respectful.
yeah.
And the what we ask for from the executives we interview, and typically they're pretty high level people because they're big
Mhm.
transactions.
Mhm.
We ask for 30 to 40 minutes of their time, but we get them on the phone for an hour. And
Wow, yeah.
they often thank me at the end because they say,
Yeah.
I think I understand better now why we made the decision that we did. They feel better about it. They feel
Nice.
validated. Yeah, the whole
Yeah,
conversation is kind of a turn on for them. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
well, if you don't feel that there's a person on the other end, there's just I don't think there's the same engagement. It's just not.
No.
Yeah, there's nobody's feelings are at stake. If you
Well,
tell me something that is just nonsense
mhm.
and I'm doing the interview, I'm going to pause and dwell on that and try to
Mm,
better understand it because I don't get it. So if you were to
mm.
tell me, oh, we needed database XYZ, and I said, well, why?
Why?
Would
Yeah,
that be applicable for your situation? And
yeah,
they wouldn't say that to me because they know, having talked to me a little bit, that I would immediately know that that's
yeah,
silly. So
yeah,
if it were an AI, would the AI just accept that and
Mm-hmm.
toy with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't think that you would get a decent response. That's
It
my
go,
opinion.
yeah, and it goes back to your point about Salesforce filling in just ticking boxes, isn't it? It's a grand version of that, in that there's no emotional investment. The sales guy is just ticking the boxes in Salesforce because they want to get to the end screen and close the deal from a systems perspective. And it's similar to that, isn't it? But talking of tooling, you have actually created something for your clients. Well, we were talking about that the other day. Well, how does that work? What does that do?
Well, so this solves a couple problems. The
Mm-hmm.
first problem in win-loss, you have
Mm-hmm.
a terrible operational problem for anybody who runs the win-loss program. And I can speak to this from personal experience, having been the owner of a win-loss program and struggling with it. And then also I see my clients struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's got this. And that is you don't know which deals were competitive. If I tell you I'm the win-loss guy and I say I need to interview the customers of competitive deals, I don't
Yeah.
want the non-competitive ones. So right away, if you're a big enterprise, you don't know. And then we need to know who to talk to at account. And I always want to talk to the most senior person who was closely involved in the deal. I don't want to talk to super senior people who are delegating, and I don't want to talk to junior people who don't know about pricing discussions and things like this. So we only can talk to a certain person or maybe two different possibilities. And the only person who knows who that is the salesperson.
Yes.
You can't guess from the Salesforce data, although AI is helping in this way in many respects. So, but still, you want to get this data from the salespeople. And so the poor win-loss manager is either in a position to ask the salespeople to nominate deals for win-loss, or to contact them and ask them to validate that the ones that they think would be good are good, and to tell me who we should call. And the first one is not good. Asking for nominations is going to get cherry picking. Don't do that. And it won't even respond. But then the second one of contacting them and asking them to validate is usually an uphill battle that will work the first time, but when they go back to do it again, they're going to run into problems. And so this is where most win-loss programs actually run aground, getting the data. So anyway, to answer your question, the answer is you run a survey. You need a survey. And we did this. I did this at companies I worked at. And as long as the survey is ostensibly owned by sales, that the sales executives want this data, and it's not for win-loss, then the sales reps will actually do it, mostly. Then you can get the information you need in order to run win-loss. I'll pause there because there's more, but that's like the...
I love that. You know what I'm hearing here is you're avoiding the sensitivity of win-loss by not calling it win-loss. You're just reaching out to the sales team to get the data you need to do win-loss without,
Right. So I'm not asking them why you won or lost. I'm just saying we need to know which deals were competitive, which competitors were there to the best of your knowledge, who do we need to talk to? And just that much. Getting that much data from the salespeople is super important in order to do these calls, of course. But while you're there, and this was the thing that we did, this is the clever thing, I think. So what we did when we were, as long as we've got you now for a little survey, let me ask you another question. And what we did was we'd ask them a series of agree-disagree questions. So, you can strongly agree or strongly disagree or be neutral. And we went through all of the steps in the sales process, how confident they felt it went. So, the first step is you need to have an introduction to the customer somehow. You have to some way of reaching them. Did you feel confident in that? Sometimes my company, we had VARs who were introducing us. So the quality of the relationship of the VAR was really, so they would agree or disagree with that. And we went through questions like, what kind of reputation did we have with the customer? Was it good? You feel it was good? I agree or disagree. And what was our product a good fit for their problem? That was the next question. And then the next question after that was, could we demonstrate our strengths? And so on. And the last questions were around price. Was our price an advantage? Was our total cost of ownership an advantage? Was support from legal and sales operations and advantage, these kinds of questions. They went in the temporal sequence that you would expect these issues to show up. Salespeople could answer these questions in a minute. They go through whatever it was, 10 of these things. They would answer them very quickly. And from that, you could gain a lot of insight. And the salespeople knew that what they were saying was going to be useful to whoever was analyzing it. So that got a lot of positive response from everybody.
Right. I think it's interesting. I love this idea that you set it up to do something in particular, and then while you're there, and then you've got all this other great insight that's come through. And has that sort of changed the way you do win-loss analysis, or was this was an additional piece of insight that you could share with the sales team and the leadership of the company?
Well, initially we thought about it as being just some questions about our little piece of the puzzle. How useful is the competitive information that's coming to you? Do you agree or disagree? It's useful. And then it dawned on us, well, wait a minute, why don't we just make it about the whole sales cycle? And then we can figure out where in the sales cycle people are getting stuck. Because if they're getting stuck in the beginning of the sales cycle, then all of the issues that people are talking about later in the sales cycle aren't really relevant. They don't know how pricing is an issue if the product wasn't a good fit. So once we started doing that, we got all sorts of cool insight that things were getting stuck for different reasons in different situations. And we were able to be very precise that we needed more references in this region, or we had problems with the sales engineers that were not numerous enough, or they were organized the wrong way in this particular part of the country. And that nobody knew that.
Right.
We showed them the data, and it was crystal clear that this was going on. This was a big win. But notice, we were not asking them why they won or lost.
No,
we were asking them how it went. It was different questions.
No, I love that. And I mean, we're coming up for time, but I have another question. Do you, from a marketing perspective, we start off upstream, right? And one of the things I sometimes think about win-loss is that, or particularly losses, is that actually, if you're not selling to the right ICP, if you didn't get those basic fundamentals right, the foundations of your sales process is already broken, right? And it could be that the loss comes through at the end and it's about budget or it's about product or something, but actually the ICP was wrong in the first place. Is that how your insight sort of bubbles back up with your clients, that actually sometimes it's not structural in the sale, it's actually something earlier than that?
Oh yeah. Well, that can certainly show up. And it can come up through the interview of the customer. As well as through this survey of the sales team. And I mean, of course, if you've got problems early in this process, you do need to focus on those, because the latter portions of your process are contingent on that. So it follows. I will tell you this. If you do it the way I'm suggesting, you can discover that you should raise your prices.
Really?
I don't think that most people expect win-loss to tell them that they should raise their prices. Usually the message from win-loss is that you're under price pressure. But consider this. If the sales reps are asked the question, was price a competitive advantage? And they know that it was. They're going to say, I agree. And then you ask them the next question, which is, was total cost of ownership a competitive advantage? And not a trick question. If the overall economic benefit for the customer was an advantage, and they say, yes, it was, well, then logically enough, that you left money on the table. There was more value to be extracted. You should not have made price a competitive advantage. You had a premium value proposition, according to the sales team. Hello. So this is definitely worth doing. And you can get the same story from customers, because price is typically not the most important issue. There are other things which are more important than price. And knowing how much leverage you actually have, not just to deliver value to the customer, but how much it stands up against their competitive alternatives, tells you exactly what you need to know to be a little less flexible about pricing. So This is
I
where I
think
think you can really test whether your program is doing the job for you.
pricing is such a great topic, and we could probably do half an hour just on pricing because I wrote a blog post about it on my Tuesday 2 cents a couple of weeks ago, because if you get it wrong, it's a part of your foundational go-to-market is your price, and it indicates so much about you. It isn't just about the transactional nature of it. And if you get it wrong, then it's a fundamental flaw, isn't it, in your whole, where you go. And I love this idea that win-loss could reveal that you're too cheap.
It's a great situation, and it does happen. It often happens with new entrants who feel that they need to have a lower price in order to gain market share, gain credibility, and so on. But it can linger on. And having an accurate readout of how much leverage you really have in transactions from your sales team and from the customers themselves, it's gold. Otherwise, you're just guessing.
Absolutely. Pricing's so emotive. Anyway, like I say, we're sort of running out of time. One last question. Aside from calling you, where should organizations start with their win-loss analysis program?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I'd say first and foremost, make sure you're talking to customers. Even a few calls is better than none. So do that. And there's a lot of good resources on how to structure these conversations. And then secondly, with respect to this questionnaire, we did it with a questionnaire that we paid a couple $1,000s a year because we chose one that could integrate with Salesforce.
Right.
For a bunch of reasons. You can set these things up. It's not big money, and it will generate a tremendous amount of value.
Nice.
We do this with our clients. This is part of our standard process. So I can talk about it from experience, but I can say that with where there's a will, there's a way. You can definitely do this.
Yeah, splendid. All right. And if people do want to get in touch with you, Ken, where can they find you?
Oh, we're pspenterprises.com. All one word.
Splendid. Splendid. And when people spin the dial on the interwebs, where do they find you, Ken? Are you LinkedIn?
Oh, I'm in LinkedIn, yeah.
Yes, fantastic. I'll include all your links in the show notes. Thank you very much, Ken. And hopefully we don't leave it another 236 episodes, 34 episodes, and I get to speak to you before that. And
I get to be number 1,000. You just need to pick up the pace.
You're right. Let's do the 1,000th episode. Okay. Thank you very much, Ken. I'll speak to you soon, mate. Thank you, Ken. And if you're curious about doing win-loss analysis, I recommend chatting to Ken. Besides being incredibly knowledgeable, he's a really nice fella. And I'll definitely have him back before episode 1000. Right, time to wind down in our virtual bar, the Rose and Rockstar, and join Robert Rose, the chief troublemaker at Seven Bear, as I pick his brains over a classic cocktail.
Hello, my friend, and welcome to the bar.
Thank you very much, mate. How are you this week?
Dog days of August, my friend. It is the dog days of August, and sweaty. There's a great meme going around right now on TikTok. I'm a TikTok sucker. I love TikTok. And so there's a great meme going around where there's it's a woman singing. It's clearly an AI generated song, but that's fine because it's so funny. And she's talking about how she's just sweaty. She's arms sweaty. She's boobs sweaty. She's head sweaty. She's just sweaty. She's just, and that's how I feel, right? It's just sweaty.
That's splendid. Yeah, it's hot here too. So absolutely. I'm feeling it, man. I'm feeling it. And I will look out for that because that sounds fun.
It's good stuff. It's really good stuff.
All right. We better hydrate then, mate.
Yeah, we'll hydrate. Yeah. We're gonna do some Aperol spritzes. Which is a famous, of course, easy to make drink. And I love me some good Aperol. And so it's really simple, right? We just take some ice cubes, throw it into a glass, pour in as much Aperol as you like, and then splash it in with some Prosecco to give it some bubbles. Some people use champagne. I don't like champagne in there. I mean, Prosecco is how you do the Aperol spritz.
Yeah.
Or you can, if you don't have Prosecco, you can use, just use more Aperol and put in a little soda water or sparkling water. You can do that, but Prosecco is better. And it's a good use for Prosecco because really, you have your one glass of Prosecco and then you're kind of done with it. And it just sort of sits in the refrigerator till it's not ready anymore. So use your Prosecco to make some Aperol spritzes.
Nice. And on a marketing perspective, apparently this is like one of those case studies like Guinness, where it's popular in bars because you can tell it's an Aperol spritzer. So it advertises itself within bars. So people see it and go, oh, I fancy one of those. Because like a gin and tonic just looks like a clear liquid. Whereas an Aperol spritzer, apparently, and that's why they also do the branded glasses, because when people walk into bars and see other people drinking it, they think, I want one of them.
Yeah. They're beautiful. Yeah. It's a Joe Pulizzi special, right? It's an orange drink that just looks absolutely lovely to drink. Yeah. I'm surprised he didn't actually get into the Aperol spritzes.
I was going to say. So for the listeners, we're talking about Joe Pulizzi, who I would imagine the listeners know who that is because we've talked about him so much, but his favorite color is orange. And but wasn't there a funny instance with the LLMs that one of the LLMs swore up and down that his favorite color was purple?
Yes, in the early days, he actually, in the early days, he actually talked about this on the podcast or somewhere where he basically said that the LLMs were basically getting his bio right, but basically got his color. I mean, which is he centers his brand on. I mean, he centered his entire brand on this thing. Yeah, and it's like the LLM. It's like you had one job, right, to get one thing right, and that's the one thing you got wrong.
And it's not like a new thing. I mean, it's forever, isn't it, that he's been orange? I mean, it's been forever since his content.
It's
original.
Well, now it's almost. Oh my goodness, it's almost 30 years now.
Yeah,
Criney.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, I didn't come into this bar to talk about Joe Pulizzi. I came into this bar to ask you about one of your articles that appeared on rose-coloured glasses. It's called Why AI Search is a Conversation, Not a Keyword. And what I really liked about this, and I want you to tell this story, so I'm not going to spoil it, but you were talking about how 12% of URLs cited by ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Copilot rank in Google's top 10 for the corresponding query, meaning that, if you Google something, your SEO is fantastic, the LLMs aren't sharing it. But you had a great example about Content Marketing Institute on this. Can you tell us?
Yeah, I mean, the inspiration for this came from research, and there's a few of them. So Ahrefs did some research, SEMrush did some research, Search Engine Land did some research, and it wasn't getting covered very much. And I thought it was I thought it was a fascinating thing, which was, and it was something I had heard from clients as well, which is like they sort of said, well, our keywords are doing, we're doing great in SEO, right? Against our keywords and key phrases that we're ranking for on search. And so we should be fine when it comes to AEO and GEO and all of the sort of answers engine, sort of Google, abstract, et cetera, et cetera. And as it turns out, the research shows from all those companies, no, there's no correlation at all, in fact. And so the question is, well, why isn't there a correlation? And of course, it's because we don't speak to AI in the same way that we spoke to search, right? So, and the classic example that, is often used actually in answer engine optimization, and this is the part that I sort of was a little counterintuitive, was people often go, well, what people are going to do with AEO is they're going to go to Google and they're going to type into the AI mode, which one is the best CRM system? And that's not how we actually speak. It's not that never gets asked, but the question that gets asked is not what is the best CRM system. The question that the conversation that actually happens in AEO, with an answer engine as well. Okay, I've got 14 people working for me and we have a dashboard and the inbound pipeline report's not working very well. What's a solution that could work well for us that would actually solve that problem, right? That's what, so there's the word CRM or the key phrase CRM doesn't ever appear in that, right? So, so the question becomes in answer engine optimization is a different use case for its conversation. It's not keywords. And so that was the purpose behind the article. And what I did was I tested it, right? I wanted to test it myself with Content Marketing Institute, which forever has ranked organically number one for what is literally the keyword, what is content marketing? Like the term content marketing and what is content marketing, it has ranked 10, 12 years for, at the number one spot.
Yeah.
And, and it's a page that's extremely important to the CMI people, right?
Yeah.
But if you start to talk about what, so if you, in all fairness, if you say, okay, what is content marketing? It does appear in the answer engine optimization, but that is not necessarily what conversations are happening. And so what I did was I put in some of the conversations that I thought might be happening, which is tell me some of the best practices that I should be putting into place for my company that, are content marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Now you would think, because we rank so well for what the hell is content marketing, and CMI has nothing. That's the only thing CMI publishes is best practices. That would come up. It doesn't. It did. In my test, it ChatGPT didn't sort and didn't cite anything at all. Google cited like 10 things, and I think CMI was like number 7 or something. In some minor best practice. Claude didn't cite it at all, et cetera, et cetera. So basically, Content Marketing Institute was not in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I was writing about was you have to as you're thinking about what you're doing when it comes to ranking as part of the conversation, you have to rethink what you're doing, not from a keyword conversations or a keyword perspective, but from what's the conversations that your customer is having, and write about that. It becomes a new content brief, as it were.
Is that like the steer has always been to answer the question. Is that how we need to think about how we might answer a theoretical question that might be put into one of these tools?
See, that's where I think the mistake is, right?
Okay.
And at its most simplistic, even heuristic, right, level, it might reduce down to that, right, which is answering the question. But I don't think that's true. In a nuanced way. What I mean by that is, when I think about a conversation that the way I use AI, for example, the way, like I'm looking for a how-to on something, or I'm looking for options on a particular, approach to solving something, or, it's rare that I know the nomenclature and the answer that I'm looking for, right? In other words, think about it like this. You're having a conversation with someone about something. It's how frequently is it when you have that conversation about something you don't know a lot about, that the first answer is the answer that you're looking for, and that it's usually not, right? It's usually that's sort of what I'm looking for, but no, what I'm really looking for is this, even if, even you'll get it wrong, right? The first time, it's like that CRM example, right? It's like, they'll come back with like, well, you can do dashboard reports in Salesforce and, and then, and you go, well, but that's not really what I'm really looking for is sort of a yes, no, it's sort of, the conversations are more nuanced than that, right? So it's not just writing the answer to an FAQ. It is rather writing the entirety of the conversation, right?
Okay.
And starting to think about your use cases of customers and how they're interacting, where you become an authority on the conversation, not an authority on the concept. Does that make sense even? I don't even know if it does.
Yeah, I think so. But I think the other thing that I'm hearing here, and we've talked about this tension over the last couple of years, I think, is if we educate, and you talked about the Google experience right now, the Google experience, it's even hard to get to an organic fucking link right now, isn't it? Because you've got the AI bit at the top, you've got the sponsored stuff, and then somewhere there are some organic links. I don't know where they are, but is there the danger here that the people are worried about? Is that if we structure our content in that way, then we make it easier actually for Google to respond with the answer and 0-click, rather than come to us for the answer. Is that tension still alive and well?
100%, yes, right? I mean, it's a weird place that we sit right now, right? Which is, And the conclusion that I've at least come to temporarily, right? This is sort of like real science where you have, you have your theories that test and you retest, and basically you continue to alter your hypotheses based on what you're seeing. So when I say the conclusion it's only the temporary conclusion, is that what you're really trying to do is write content for Google that answers the question or provides context to the conversation in such a way that if you're cited, that people say, I want the bigger picture. Like I want the whole story. So it is in part, and I'll tell you how this, because I know that sounds a little esoteric, approach I've been testing and working literally since January of this year is to make every blog post I'm doing in a particular month one piece of a larger story.
Okay.
In other words, so I have monthly themes that I'm working on now. So I write, my process has changed where I write the entire, like I vomit up 5,000 or 7,000 words on a particular topic that'll never see the light of day, but it's the information, it's the manifesto, if you will, the core story, if you will. And then I use that manifesto to draw out, quote unquote, 4 episodes that answer or have a particular conversation about a particular theme.
Yeah.
And so I think a theme, and then I think, roughly speaking, 4 conversations within that theme, and each one then refers to the other. Right.
Yeah.
So I refer to so in conversation 2, I not only refer to conversation 1, I refer to conversation 3 and so on and so forth. So that if it gets cited, it's specific enough. And, and then you get into the tactical thing, like every paragraph has to have references, like stop using sort of, I can't remember the grammar word for it right off the top of my head, but it's, where you say it or they referring to something up above. It's like, no, you spell out the quoter or this, in every paragraph, so that when that snippet gets cited, it's actually naming you by name, not just they.
Yeah.
And so, there's some little hacks to do there, but basically the idea is that they look at that snippet and they go, that citation, and go, oh, that's interesting. I'll bet there's a bigger story there. Click, and there is a bigger story for them to explore on the website. Right. So you're treating the traffic a little differently, right? It's not the initial learning, it's the deeper exploration.
Yeah. I also think, and I don't know where I'm going. Again, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm also thinking that there's a difference between Google searching for something and that experience and that comes up, and a private, am I saying this right? A private conversation you're having with Claude or Gemini where you're looking for a solution to be solved. Those two things, as a content author, you're going to want those two experiences to be different, but you can't do that. Is this making sense? Like, what I mean? We want to avoid the 0-click shit from Google, and we want to create intrigue that somebody will come and look for us. But if we get cited correctly, we don't mind in Claude whether it's a bit more of a boast about what we did in giving the answer, as long as it cites us and that people come through. Is there a difference in that experience, do you think?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I think you raise a really good question, and I think only time's going to tell on the results. The change in human behavior based on that, right? I think my gut tells me, my experience tells me that yes, I would much rather, and I actually say this in the article, I would much rather be quoted 10 times or cited or quoted or whatever the word is 10 times accurately than 100 times inaccurately, right?
Yes.
That becomes the new SEO, right? In other words, I would rather rank, in the old days we used to, remember all of the unintended rankings that we get. Like for example, my blog, because I used Dashiell Hammett one time in a blog post as a cultural reference, which is like an obscure detective thing, right? And so, but I used Dashiell Hammett as a reference. I used to rank like number 1 for because I would see it in my Google Analytics, right? That people that search Dashiell Hammett novels, I would rank number 1 for it, right? It's like this very weird thing. So and I would get traffic on it. Like I would get a lot of noise traffic, right?
Yeah.
And so the idea right. And so the idea with SEO was always, I'd rather have, 10 number one links that are relevant than 100 links that are irrelevant, right? And so I think that what you're seeing now is sort of the converse of that, which is I'd much rather be cited 4 or 5 times correctly than incorrectly 100 times, which is it puts a real question mark on the, so sort of the zeitgeist of the day now is number of citations. Like I kind of don't give a shit about the number of citations.
Yes.
I wonder what citations are actually accurate and are citing me in a way that make people want to come to my website, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that example because I had an example a bit like that. It's been so many years ago that I can't remember it exactly, but there was somebody who had like a little bit of a parallel career to me in that they worked in I think they worked in a computer room and worked their way up and stuff like that. And I just made a little comparison and where this person had come to. And I felt so bad for all the traffic that came for that person, where they were mentioned in passing in a different fucking point that I was making. And I'd see all this traffic coming and going, I'm really sorry.
Right.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
Yeah, that's right. To this day, I get at least 3 emails a month to this Robert Rose guy who's a publisher of cookbooks and travel books.
Yeah.
And basically they're all like, I love your travel books. They're fan mail, right? They're basically fan mail to this guy. And I have to always write back to them and go, I'm not these aren't the droids you're looking for, right? I'm like, sorry, I don't even know who this dude is, and I always send him off to his actual website, which is like, I feel bad for the guy because his website doesn't rank for his own name and what he does.
No. Yeah. All right. So, mate, if we're looking for high ranking, if we don't care about the ranking of the content, we're just looking for the good stuff that maybe we'll cite in AI and maybe we won't. Where should we go for that, mate?
I think you probably need to go to rockstarcmo.com. I think that's there you go.
Hey,
you can hit my website if you want to. Just quote me correctly is all I give a shit about. Don't worry about clicking to the website. Just cite me correctly. Go to google.com.
I believe that you said that you said something about rock stars and content marketing. I remember you saying something like that anyway. So I'm always quoting you correctly for that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
All right, mate. And when people spin the dial on the interwebs, where are they going to find you?
They'll find me on LinkedIn for sure, on social webs, and would love to connect with everybody there. It's been interesting.
Brilliant. And will I find you in the bar next week?
Oh, you will indeed. Yes.
I look forward to it, my friend. I'll see you then. Thank you, Robert. Evidence there that SEO and GEO are currently 2 different things, supported by that really good Content Marketing Institute experience in that story. I like that. So that's a wrap on episode 334 of the Rockstar CMO effing marketing podcast. Thanks to Ken and Robert. But most of all, thank you for putting a dime into your podcasting jukebox, selecting our track and jiving along with us. I've been your host, Ian Truscott, and you can find links to our little band and the articles we discussed in the show notes, along with links to our blog, newsletter, and all of our previous episodes at rockstarcmo.com, or follow us and join the conversation on LinkedIn. Next week, Kathy is back to share one of her marketing bear essentials, and Robert will be in the bar. And I'll leave you with this quote from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar: "You can't win unless you learn how to lose."
Still waiting in line? Again? That's time you'll never get back. Save time and money with Stamps.com. Over 4 million businesses have skipped the line with Stamps.com. Join them to save up to 90% off carrier rates from your computer or phone right now. Print postage for certified mail, registered mail, and packages in seconds. Then schedule a pickup right from your home or office. For a limited time, go to Stamps.com and use code PODCAST for a free welcome gift. Taxes and fees apply.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.